Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal, and this is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown. And in studio right now, I have Mark Schirmacher.
Yes.
All right.
Hello.
Got that one right.
Mhm.
All right. And we're going to hit it off with an acoustic version of Bird in Your Tree. This is off of your latest album. And actually, the week before this, we rolled with your phone interview.
Yeah.
Now, you hail from Minneapolis.
I do.
And you have quite an impressive career, which we'll jump into later.
Wow.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Take it away, sir.
Thanks. I love you like the maple tree, red and orange from summer green. Soon after I see winter snows, springtime sap begins to flow. I'm happy like a bird in your tree, like a bird in your tree. I love you like the scrabbly pine, a towering rest for freeloaders and vines. In your shade the owl spits her bones, and fearful birds create their homes. I'm happy like a bird in your tree. I'm happy like a bird in your tree, like a bird in your tree. I love you like the scrabbly pine, a towering rest for freeloaders and vines. They raise their faces to the sky, and silver ends they flutter like your eyes when you see me. All things have the time to live and grow, and dead wood warms the fire glow. Loved ones, they gather on leaping flames. With children, tears, and rings, we count the days. I'm happy like a bird in your tree. I'm happy like a bird in your tree, like a bird in your tree, like a bird in your tree.
And that was Bird in Your Tree by Mark Schirmacher. He's in studio with me this afternoon. A beautiful song, lots of lush kind of painting of birds and trees and everything else. Now, let me ask you, did you write that song for your wife, or is that just kind of an all-over love song?
It was written for my wife, but I think it could be an all-over love song as well. It's kind of combining my love for nature with the love for my wife. So it's sort of a marriage, if you will, of of metaphors and ideas. So.
All right, very cool.
Yeah.
And now, is that kind of what you hit off with this album? Was more kind of metaphors and taking from life experiences and things like that?
Yeah, I think I'm an experience-based writer. I have a hard time writing about things that I don't know anything about,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And experience and observations, I think I'm more of an observational writer at times too. But I experience things, process them, file them away in my notebook, and then maybe a song happens.
Right,
So-
right. We had talked last time over the phone that you've got notebooks and notebooks of things just kind of squirreled away and stored away.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for being able to dig those out, because I've got notebooks, and if I don't look at them in like 2-3 years, they go right in the trash and I move on. So,
Well, I don't draw from my super old stuff. I have a couple I'm using, and then I have some that are put away. And if I hit a dry spell or think of an idea that I know I wrote down at some point, I will go back into my squirrel cache and see what I can unbury. Yeah.
all right, excellent. And now this is your, if I'm not mistaken, your second solo album.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you do have a band down in the cities as
Yeah.
well. And you're kind of reworking that name a little bit.
I think that name has been on the chopping block for a long time, and I don't think any of us have
you're not
quite
married
the
to it.
guts to bring the axe down and sever the head from the body of the chicken and all that, what happens after that, you know.
Right. But the band is called Due North.
We're called Due North, yeah.
Yep. And you've been playing with these guys for quite a while.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the year was that you gave me. Was it 16 years, 15 years?
I would think we started playing around 1988, maybe.
All right, then.
So at that 30-year mark, I think. And we've known each other for further back than that, but we learned our instruments together.
All right.
And had
very
our
cool.
first band and had many different names.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Let's talk about for a second about your first band with the guys that you're actually still playing with.
Yeah.
Which is pretty phenomenal, because you hear about bands all the time. They get together, maybe
Yeah.
they're a high school band or even a college band, and then life happens, it disbands, or people drop off, people come in, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't sound the same as it once did. So hats off to you guys. That's really phenomenal. That you guys are still making music together.
Yeah.
But in that first kind of year and learning your instruments together, how was that? Was it, we're going to be rock stars and we're going to be rich and famous and on MTV? Or was it just, hey, let's take this garage and see where it goes? I'm making you think back. I know.
Maybe a little bit of all of it, but it was probably mostly about the music. And we were each in kind of different groups at that time too, and our one band was kind of a revolving door, if you will, for people to come in and try stuff. But the core of the three of us, and four in later years, has really remained just obsessed with trying to At Your House of the Rising Sun. Do you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah. The Animals. Yeah. This is one of the songs we played.
Hello,
House of the
John.
Rising Sun. Hello.
John Telcott, everyone.
No, I heard I heard the Eric Burden and the Animals playing it.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
University phone lines are down, except for those. There was a fiber cut in Madison, so the programming is all on backup feeds here.
Oh, okay.
So, just so you know. So you like the House of the Rising?
Of course.
Can you do a few?
Can I do a few?
Can
I grew up playing that song. I got this
All
one's
right.
tuned fine.
That one's tuned for it.
This one's tuned for House Arrest. There is a house in New Orleans called the House of the Rising Sun.
Give it a little harmonica to it. Give it a little harmonica.
Well, we got to go with the
No, we
the
have to
C
change
harmonica.
harmonicas now.
Well, you know, it's
the
very
other harmonica
complicated.
won't play it. This is live radio. by the
could.
way.
I know, this is the joy of live radio.
Yeah, see?
Exactly.
I want to hear it on the show.
Maybe the wrong
No, no,
harp
no,
on
no.
that one too.
You don't have anything for your feet to do. What do you have for your feet to do?
Well, when I busk,
When
which
you
I'm
what?
gonna, when I busk,
Spell it.
B-U-S-K,
What does that mean?
it means standing on a street playing music for people who are walking by.
Mm-hmm.
Where's
Yeah.
the tin can?
I think it's an Irish idea.
Where's
yeah.
the tin can?
Yeah, well, or guitar case.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Busking.
There we go.
That works too.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, John. All right.
That's great.
Excellent. 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 John Telcott, everyone, he is our local engineer and does a fabulous job at it.
And he knows the animals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, since that just happened, let's jump into kind of cover songs and things
Oh,
like that.
wow.
So, did you ever do kind of the whole cover plethora,
Yeah.
if you will?
That's how we started. I think
Okay.
that's how a lot of instrumentalists start, by playing who you love, trying to emulate that, get that right. You learn the instrument that way, and you learn how to play with people that way, you know? So in that band, initially we were called the Hoagnanders,
Okay.
which there's kind of a long story about that name. I still think it's one of the better names that we've had.
The Hoagnanners.
The Hoagnanders, yes, it's someone's last name. He was
Really?
a Lutheran pastor in
Okay.
the town that we lived in who had gone horribly wrong. And so we thought it was really funny as like 16-year-olds to name ourselves after a fallen religious hero.
Oh,
So,
funny.
yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well,
It's still kind of funny to me,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I just haven't evolved much from 16. So, but yeah, we learned cover songs. That's how we learned our instruments and how we learned to put our own songs together. And as we were a band, listening to songs and putting shows together with the different elements we loved, the Rush songs, Boston, Pink Floyd, U2, The Doors. These are the people we loved. And soon after that, I think we said, well, let's kind of write our own thing. Or maybe that thing was in us all the time, and we just finally had the tools to put it to some kind of form.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did touch a little bit on the kind of first band that you had, and it wasn't really punk. It was more kind of a folky punk hybrid,
Yeah.
if you will.
Folk metal almost, folk punk metal.
Folk punk
We were
metal.
definitely lampooning all of the genres, and we loved all the genres, but we were definitely trying to do something intentionally awkward and fun and really interesting to play, you know.
Yeah.
So,
And how was that received back then? I mean, we're talking the late 80s.
oh, it was great.
Here.
It was great. We'd play house parties. We'd play graduation parties, like backyard. In fact, we played a backyard party for my friend Pete, who had graduated a year ahead of me from high school. And we set up as a three-piece, guitar, bass, and drums. And we were called, a different name then, we were called Invention. After
Okay.
Bach's Inventions, he wrote a whole bunch of pieces he called Inventions. We thought that was cool to name ourselves after a classical artist, you know.
Yeah.
And we were shut down pretty quick because we were really loud and horribly obnoxious, and it was great. So, yeah, I think, you know, we were received as well as, you know, kids and young artists are received by their peers. And not so
Right.
much by the adults that support them, you know. But
Yeah.
we were always given a space to play by the drummers' parents, by my own folks. the bass player, we just always had a lot of support that way. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful.
yeah,
All right. Since John stopped in and asked you a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah.
busking, let's jump into that.
sure.
And now I know what busking is. You know what busking is. A lot of people might not. Busking it's an art form in itself, but it's more so the artist or the musician more often than not. Going out on the street corner, they've got their guitar case open or maybe a hat in front of them,
Yeah,
and they're playing songs for money.
yeah,
Some people would call that panhandling.
sure. Although panhandling, you
I
don't do
don't,
anything
but-
for it. I think there's a huge difference. But
Yes,
it
yes.
might, in some people's minds, it might cross that line.
Yep.
I would disagree.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would as well. How
Good.
did you get into busking?
Busking? I think the first time I did it, I can't even think. We'll say in my recent adult life, the first time I busked recently was maybe about 3 or 4 years ago in Minneapolis on the James J. Hill Bridge.
Okay.
It's a bridge that spans over the Mississippi River near downtown Minneapolis. And to me, it's one of the most beautiful places in the cities. And there's people walking both ways on that bridge all the time. So you always have an audience. And I do it to develop my songs and
Okay.
just to have no pressure for what your audience is thinking or doing, because your audience walks by you and then they're gone in like 11 seconds, you know. And sometimes they stick around and watch you and have a conversation or give you $1 or whatever it is.
Right.
And that's great too. But it's sort of a tool for me to maybe fire some of my stuff and see
Okay.
what's left after that, or just to try some vocal techniques or different kind of guitar playing stuff that just is like the biggest wall that you can throw stuff on, and there's no consequences. It's just development. So, and it's fun. You can talk to people. And
Yeah.
people stop sometimes and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, or I relate to that song or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a cool way to connect.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. That's a wonderful take on busking.
Yeah.
Well,
The
thank
movie
you.
Once, a couple years ago, which they made into a musical, is about a guy who does a lot of busking. And I think that movie might have put busking in more of the collective consciousness. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie.
I am not actually. but-
Beautiful, beautiful, kind of a folk singer. The
Okay.
whole soundtrack is like folk singing. And he's an Irish fellow. So I think we're a lot of folks. And to
All
learn that
right.
busking is not just some weird medieval
No.
Mhm.
No, it is
ploy
not.
to panhandle.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right on.
All right. Wonderful. Will you be doing any busking while you're up here?
You know what, Crystal? I haven't planned on it, but now that we're talking about it, I could see a couple of street corners on my way in here that might kind of suit me. So I do actually plan to go busking in the cities on August 24th. August 22nd, a couple of days from now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be busking downtown, but I can do the official plug at the end of the show. Or whatever.
That's quite all right. Quite all right.
If you know any place that I should busk here in Superior, please let me know.
I will.
I'd be happy
I
to.
will after the show.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent, Mark. Excellent. All right. So before we jumped into this radio interview, you had mentioned that you had a radio show yourself. Thinking that.
I was on the radio.
You're on the
a
radio?
long time ago. I don't have my
Okay.
own show though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Yes.
How was that experience?
It was awful. It was hard.
So
It-
was it an interview like this or?
Yes, it was actually the same band that we're talking about from all those years ago.
Okay.
And we had just made a demo tape, a literal cassette tape
Yep.
with 4 songs on it, and it was called Kitsch. The CD or the disc was called, the tape was called Kitsch, and a radio station picked us up. I think our drummer had some contacts, and we did a little interview, and we were just really unprepared and felt kind of fish out of water, so it wasn't the greatest first day out for us. But it didn't lead to anything, devastating or great. It was just kind of there, and first time out kind of deal.
All right. Yeah, my first time in the studio doing an interview did not go over very well either.
As an artist?
No, as an interviewer,
Oh,
interviewing
okay,
an
yeah.
artist. Yeah, and it takes a little bit to get your chops going and to get
Yeah.
that flow and to.
So who do you like to listen to as an interviewer? Are there people out there in the radio or in the world that you just think have what you want and have the thing down?
Yep. I listen to The Current quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know I'm such a traitor. I'm over in Wisconsin right now, and the
Current is great.
Minnesota.
Current is great.
Yeah, Current is excellent.
Yeah.
Actually, here I learned quite a bit from Walt Dizzo, actually, and he is our other kind of long-standing radio persona
Okay,
here,
yeah.
and he hosts a show very similar to mine. He's been doing it a lot longer than me, though.
Sure.
So I listened to him quite a bit, kind of picked up a few tricks, but then the actual interview process I learned from Mike Simonson, who has since passed away. But he was an excellent teacher. I kind of regret not taking any of his journalism
Yeah.
classes, but also at the same time, I don't think I had the quite enough chops to
Sure.
cut what he was asking of
Yeah.
of his staff and things like that. But he's made some great journalism students and some great journalists as well
Sure.
that are now out in
In the
goodness
world.
knows where. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like listening to good interviews because they're kind of a balance of the interviewer having insights, having questions, giving a little bit, but then there's the interviewee who is maybe doing the same thing, answering, offering insights, maybe doing a little giving and taking as well. But yeah, I actually like the transcriptions too, because then you can read along with them and
Right.
really absorb it.
Yep.
Yeah, when Steve Perry from Journey was interviewed a few days ago on The Current,
Oh.
promoting his new record, I was watching it happen, and the transcription was happening, and it was just really fun. Because who doesn't love Journey? And
Right.
you just root for Steve Perry at the end of this interview because he tells some of the stories. So
Oh, excellent.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yep. And then Robin Washington is
Robin
another
Washington,
one.
okay.
Robin Washington.
Female, male?
A guy.
Robin, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Robin Washington.
He's actually very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Yep. Works out in Washington but lives in Duluth. So.
Okay. It's a commute.
Yes. And the wonders of the internet.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose.
It's great.
Nice and
It's
easy.
great. It's great. You had mentioned that your first band kind of sent in a demo tape. And now for those kids who don't know what that is, that's a tiny little VHS tape that you stuck in your car, and it had a wonderful warm sound to it, and it was great. And then if you got really good, like I did, you could rewind that tape to exactly the starting point of that song that
Yeah.
you wanted to listen to again.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So how was that kind of putting that tape together, submitting it? I mean,
Yeah.
hopes didn't sound like they were too dashed when it didn't result in
Yeah.
anything. But I guess kind of looking at the progression of how things are done now. I mean,
Yeah.
now people submit an MP3 or they even just shoot off an email and say, hey, here's my page.
Yeah.
Check out my stuff.
Yeah, it's super changed. Where you needed to have a physical product. You still do to some degree, I think,
Okay.
these days. But the recording process and the conception process and all of that was, I think, really similar if you're going to make any product right now. If you're going to make music, to record it, to put on an MP3 or a disc or a whatever. But that was just the format. It was tapes. And it was actually going to CDs. This was 1996 that we put our tape out.
Okay.
And then since then, we almost made a CD together and couldn't get the last couple pieces in place. But the process is, I think, really similar. Getting it out there is different. But people still mostly want a physical thing. They want a CD, which is really weird to me, that they want that, like radio stations and friends and fans. And they want something. More and more people are doing the digital thing, downloading an album from my website, or I download artists I like, their stuff. If that's the only way it's available,
Right.
I'll take it. But
Yep.
yeah.
And I've spoken to artists before about this as well, and they just say, digital, excuse me, it's going that way just because of the internet and internet
Yeah.
speeds and accessibility. But it's also slightly cheaper to go that way too because you don't
Yeah.
have to produce something physical. It's physical in the sense that it's on your phone or on your computer,
Yeah.
but you don't have to press a CD. You don't have to make a booklet and da da da.
Yeah, I would argue the cost is nominally less because you're only, if you get a quantity of them, you're only paying a couple $100 for a batch of CDs. You know,
Okay.
if you want to have someone design it and involve more people, then you're paying more. But I see, looking over across the counter from where you're sitting, you've got a turntable.
Yes,
and
we do.
I think that's honestly where so much energy is going now in music is vinyl.
Oh, back to the vinyl.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Record shops are popping up all over in Minneapolis, and I'm sure in a lot of other places here across the country. And that's how I like to listen to my music. In fact, the previous record I made, I did press into vinyl.
Okay.
This record I haven't yet, or I'm not planning on it, or whatever. But sure, making a physical copy is always going to cost more.
Right.
But
right. And vinyl's just got so much more of a warmer tone to it, and
yeah,
it really takes you back into what music and how music used to be made. I mean, they
Yeah.
used to shove people in the studio and say go, and there were no mess ups because they're cutting it right on the vinyl itself. And
yeah.
yeah.
And it sort of makes you slow down and want to listen to a side or a whole album, which is not easy for people to do right now, to stop what they're doing and either sit and listen or be aware of when the record's over and go and turn it. So I don't know. I think it's creating more music lovers, maybe, helping people connect more with stopping and slowing down and taking in art, which is, we cannot go wrong if we do that. You know?
Right.
I mean, we may not make it to work if we like it too much, but what's the worst that can happen? Get fired? I don't know. Sorry. To be
No.
silly and cynical.
Oh, that's
But-
quite all right. Quite all right, Mark. So it looks like you're kind of gearing up for another song here. I see that you have your Crafter guitar.
I do, yeah.
And just a slight personal note from me, I love Crafter. I think they just have a really
You know them.
nice warm tone.
That's great. Yeah.
Yep, I've got a couple myself.
For
so-
real. We are connected through our love of Crafter guitars then. That's awesome.
How did you discover yours?
Yeah, so I'm at a guitar store with a friend of mine who is actually since passed, and we were getting his guitar tuned up. And he's talking to the person at the desk. This is like maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm just noodling around the store, looking at stuff, picking up guitars. And I picked up this guitar that I'm holding. It's a mini jumbo Crafter acoustic guitar. And I started playing it, and I've played a lot of guitars, and I don't really go guitar shopping. I wait for the guitar to like find me, and that sounds like really music zen and whatever, but it's true. And so I started playing this guitar, and it was like, as Willie Nelson would say, it started playing me. And I was just kind of moved by it, and I'm playing it in the tone and the feel and everything, and I said right there, I need to have this guitar in my life. So I'd never heard of Crafter before, and I've always been an off-brand guitar person.
Okay.
So I will try stuff that are out there trying to make a new, splash. And this guitar it's been a really nice companion the past 4 or 5 years. And if we have time later, I can play a song that is loosely based on an event that happened involving our house getting broken into.
Oh.
And this very guitar being stolen and then found later in a pawn shop across town.
Oh.
And one of the few items that we got back from the robbery. And so it's kind of been through those channels with me. But
Yes.
yeah, I love them. The feel, the sound, the whole thing. It's just
Yes.
great.
I actually have to take a quick tangent here
Yeah,
before we
yeah.
jump into a song. A story about one of my guitars,
Yeah.
actually. So, one of my really good friends, well, no, let's take it even further back. Before I met my good friend, I was dating a guy that had this black guitar sitting in the corner of his house, and at the time I was really into guitars and trying out different ones and everything, and I wanted to borrow it from him. And he's like, no, you can't. That's not mine. It's this guy's. And I'm like, well, just loan it for me for a week. I'll bring it back. No, it's not mine, even though I've had it in the corner of my house for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving it back to the guy. Needless to say, it didn't work out between me and said person. Then I ended up meeting the guy who got the guitar back, and he ended up being one of my really good friends for many years.
Yeah.
He ended up giving me this black guitar
That you had wanted
that
all along.
That I had wanted all along.
Okay.
I played it avidly for quite a while, and then needless to say, I was running an open mic at the time at a coffee shop in Duluth, and I left it backstage. I was going to get it the next day, and
Gone.
it was gone.
Gone.
It was gone, and
Yeah.
I've never found it since.
Yeah.
But my now significant other is the brother of the guy who gave me that guitar. It turns out it was his guitar
Okay.
that his brother had from him.
Yeah.
So I traded the guitar for
A person.
a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good trade.
I
That's a
think
pretty
so.
good trade.
I think it's a pretty good trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you try to get the guitar found by the police? What happened? Did you?
Nah, you know,
Nothing.
I mean, it was a coffee shop and a constant
Yeah.
rotation of people, and people are coming in and out, busking and their instruments. So, yeah,
That's tough.
it was just it needed to travel
Yeah.
and keep moving on. So
But you got the person at the end of the string, so to speak.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, how wild is that?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's just funny. Anyway,
What kind was it? Do you remember?
it was a complete knockoff brand.
Yeah.
Its body was about the size of your mini jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could remember what it was called.
The black shiny, kind of like like the Johnny Cash kind of deal.
Yeah. It was definitely looked like a Johnny Cash
Yeah.
kind of guitar, but it had a
Man in Black.
beautiful tone to it and wonderful. But
Yeah.
I digress with that story. Let's
No, it's
jump into
great.
another song.
Sure. So this is this was almost going to be the name of the album. The song is called "Satisfied." It's the lead track on the album. But I Googled it to make sure, like, who else has this title, and it was all over the place. So I'm like, I'm not gonna get lost in this. So, and then it turned out really nice that "Bird in Your Tree" was the title track because there's some special production stuff on that song with the trumpet player Mike Tenhoff playing with me, and it just has a real different feel. But I thought this was a nice opening track, and I was sitting in our old house in Fridley near Minneapolis late at night, and the oil cars were running a few miles away from the tar sands in Canada. And it was in the summertime, and it was hot, and the train was running, and I had kind of these things that were not satisfying me at the moment. And I kind of slapped myself and started looking at all the things that I was satisfied with. And the song kind of comes out of that. So,
All right, wonderful.
yeah.
Mark in studio with me. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock meltdown here on 91.3 KUWS right here in Superior.
It's one of those nights when a man could die, so satisfied, sirens wail. We shared a plate, we saw behind the veil, and now we wait. The night air, it has a chill. The candles, they burn down to nothing. Sleep comes on easy. Our love is satisfied. The reed man calls us to stop as the cars run the streets. We find our space in the dark, and our quiet eyes, they try to meet. The troubles that follow us, they have no good hold on us anymore. They're looking through keyholes, jealous as we twist behind this locked door. And we're satisfied. We're satisfied. Keep it tied in your dream with the yellow sun trapped in between. 'Cause I'll crash your machine with my wild heart stitched out to the seams. 'Cause I've got a plan, I'll spend it all in one place. I've got 1,000 ways, I can think of 1,000 different ways to kiss your face till you're satisfied. You're satisfied. It's one of those nights when a man could die so satisfied. Sure as the dawn steals my sleep, the wolf eats my sheep, I'm still satisfied. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied.
Wonderful song by Mark Schirmacher. He's in the studio with me this afternoon. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown. Thank you for joining us. I love that song. I love kind of the tone in your voice. It's nice and harmonic, and it works. The song just kind of works and comes together, and it's really nice and mellow. Is that what you wanted to hit off with that? I mean, you kind of embodied the feel of, I mean, you had told me the story of how the song came about, and yeah, it just encapsulates all of it.
Wow, thank you. That's hugely satisfying to hear. Thank you.
Of course, yes. And now, before you hit that song, you were talking about what you were going to name the album. You were going to name it after that song,
Yeah.
Satisfied. But then you went out and found a bunch of albums named Satisfied.
And songs and everything. It was just saturated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And now, so you made the choice to not name the album that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you run into a lot, of just kind of song titles that are the same, album titles that are the same?
I think it's part of my approach. Like, I don't want to have someone search a song up or whatever and have there be a zillion choices.
Oh, okay.
You know, So it's just kind of part of the
Mhm.
my more methodical
Mm.
side, trying
Mhm.
to separate some stuff out and maybe make the album
Mhm.
stand out a bit from. But I think as the album progressed,
Mhm.
I think it made more sense to go with Bird in Your Tree, but I probably would have been happy with Satisfied too,
Oh, okay.
because that's kind of the theme of, in a way, it's kind of the theme of the record, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
in
Right,
life, in
right.
my life,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
maybe what I'm trying to spread around.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And now, before a few songs and before John and a couple
yeah.
others, we were talking about some of your first bands that you were in, and you
Mhm.
had done some tapes and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, can anybody scrounge those up if they really want to hear your stuff?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
Probably not.
Actually, we made a CD
You
at the
did?
beginning
Okay.
of the CD time,
Mhm.
and there was one that surfaced at a Cheapo Records a couple of years ago, and
Mhm.
a guy I know through another guy called me and said, "Hey,
Mhm.
dude, I found this old CD," and I thought they were just all,
Mhm.
trashed or whatever,
Yeah.
or sitting happily in someone's, dusty
Mhm.
CD collection. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think it'd be hard to find them,
Okay.
and maybe it's okay that we can't find them in a lot of ways, but
Mhm.
I'm completely proud of them. I mean, it's
Mhm.
it's what you do. It's how you
Right.
grow and how you say what you say, and then you move on, and then you
Mhm.
make another album.
Right,
So
right. And what kind of sound did you guys have back then? I know we had talked about
Yeah.
kind of when you were 16, it was metal folk punk.
yeah. So we were playing clubs in the '90s, like
Mhm.
mid to late '90s,
Okay.
and we were actually probably started in about 1993 or so. So Nirvana was huge, Soundgarden, the whole grunge thing. We were not grunge. We were writing pop songs with
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of bluegrass and country in there.
Okay.
We did like to play heavier stuff. I don't know if we
Mhm.
were great at it. But a story to kind of tell that might give you an idea of what we
Mhm.
sounded like was we were playing at the Fine Line in Minneapolis,
Okay.
which we played there quite a bit. That was a really generous venue for us. And there's four of us, 2 guitars, drums, bass, and we're playing, and some people are dancing, and then no one's dancing like right in front of us. And there's
Mhm.
this kind of an older, skinny, kind of short, gray-haired guy who comes forward and just starts dancing like weird, robotic, groovy 60s, 90s moves, like just really loving the music, right?
Mhm. Okay.
And we finish our song, and we're getting ready for the next song, and I'm bending over my pedal board, changing some things, and I
Mhm.
talk to him. I say, "Hey, thanks for coming and dancing."
Mhm.
And he says, "Oh, no problem." And he comes up to me, and says, "You guys are tight." And then he kind of looks around. He says, "Maybe too tight." And I've always been mystified and really appreciative of that insight,
Mhm.
because I think in a way we were too clean and too
Okay.
tight for the times. Not for
Mhm.
us. We were what we were. We are what we are, and
Mhm.
that's fine. But I think we were much too streamlined. We were much too for that time period.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
In
so,
the era of grunge and kind
Yeah.
of going with flow and a little improvisation
yeah,
in there and kind of a free flow almost.
yeah.
As you think about kind of that Nirvana sound, I mean, they had their bass, but then if somebody hits a wrong note, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we also were those type of musicians. I think we
Mhm.
still are, where it's not about the perfection; it's about the
Mhm.
moment and expression.
Right, right.
But we weren't like angry, We didn't
Okay.
have a grind axe to grind to axe. We didn't have an axe to grind, at least musically speaking,
Mhm. Okay.
So, and we had a lot of harmonies, which are really dorky, but I
Mhm.
think they're great,
Mhm.
but they're not
Mhm.
really cool
So
in that
almost
setting.
kind of 50s pop then.
I don't know. I'll have to put some stuff on my website, like
Okay.
old Immigrants music. We were called the Immigrants at that point.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
yeah, super clean.
Mhm.
In fact, when we were interviewed way back in that first radio interview that I said was
Mhm.
a tough experience, he commented, the guy interviewing us commented that it sounded clean, and he used a word like kind of shiny or something. He's like, "This is really
Oh.
shiny. Did you guys mean to
Okay.
be this shiny, or did the production just come out that way?"
Mhm.
And we're like, "I don't know. It's
Shiny.
just kind of,
Interesting.
we're all sort
Mhm.
of exacting in a way, but
Okay.
I don't know."
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll just have to get the guys up here, and I'll have to experience it myself.
The Immigrants.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the Due North playing
Due
immigrant
North.
songs.
Due North is due for a release. We might be putting an EP out in the next couple of months. Possibly,
Excellent.
yes.
All right. Excellent. All right. And then, Mark, before we jump into, you had mentioned a little earlier that you had written a song about kind of the crafter guitar coming back to
Oh,
you after
sure.
a break-in and things like
Do
that.
you want
I
to
was-
hear that?
Yes, I was hoping
Is that
we
what you're
could hear
leading
that.
into?
Yes.
Or is this leading into something else?
No, that's
It
what
is
I'm leading
leading
into.
it. Yeah, so this song is from my last record, which is called Broken Hearts Shine.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the record was inspired by my walk and fight with cancer, which is a new topic, and I don't want to divert everything, but
Okay.
it sort of was the bed and the garden that this previous record grew out of.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular song is not about that,
Mm-hmm.
but it has kind of that bittersweet kind of feeling that much of that record has,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Well, I don't have any makeup on, so if I cry, it'll be okay.
I don't think it's that. I don't know if it's gonna give you that much. Who knows?
We'll see.
But this song is called "Back in My Arms,"
Okay.
and it's about our house getting broken into and a lot of stuff going missing and other things that are not tangible going missing, and sort of that whole thing. So
Mhm. All right.
Yeah.
Take it away, Mark.
great, thanks. All the faces and other places have left the traces on your neck. A cold car and a warm bar, and I never thought I'd see you back in my arms. We don't have to talk about it. Back in my arms. A rough ride to the south side where a dirty street didn't notice you. A county line is a clean crime, and I never thought I'd see you back in my arms. We don't have to talk about it. Back in my arms, I fight to understand. I left you alone, maybe too alone. I touch my ear to your shattered faith, and you sing to me. You're home and I'm not alone. You're in the corner, looking your best. No fingerprints, I'm out of hints. I need to feel you against my chest. I'm damaged goods and you're damaged goods. The human heart is a neon blue. Your lines show and your body glows. I never thought I'd see you back in my arms. We don't have to talk about it. Back in my arms, I fight to understand. Back in my arms.
Excellent.
Thank you.
What a fun kind of somber song.
I know how
be
to bring a
perfectly
room
honest.
down, Crystal. You got a room that needs some bringing down, you give me a call. I can bring the business down.
All
That's what I'm here for.
All right. Sounds good.
But on that same note,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot put time into anything that doesn't have hope. So
Exactly.
you can
Exactly.
feel the feeling from my song, and if you feel it all the way, or maybe read the lyrics all the way, there's always going to be something in there to get you out of it. So that's kind of my thing.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, Mark, do you have anything you want to hit before we close out this afternoon?
Musically or otherwise?
Musically or recordly,
Musically.
personally, if you really want to go there.
I'm open to questions, or I mean, I love playing songs, but I don't have an agenda, I guess.
All
I'm
right.
really happy to be here. Thank you so much for
Yes, of course, Mark.
inviting me to UW Superior, and
Yes, of course.
yeah.
And thank you so much for coming up. I know you're playing a gig tonight, so that should go over really well. Sounds like you might do a little busking. Maybe I kind of egged you
Yeah,
into that one.
I
but-
think I might be looking for a street corner in Superior. I'm also playing in Minneapolis on the 22nd of August, and then playing in October, also
Okay.
October 13th, in St. Paul,
All
Minnesota,
right.
our sister city, Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Right.
Yeah.
The Twin Cities.
The Twin
Yeah.
Cities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Mark, if somebody's interested in getting a hold of you for either a music question, I know you also do some education,
Yep.
like we talked about before.
Yep.
That's more middle school, but it kind of sounds like you're open for guitar lessons, maybe, and
For
things
sure.
like that.
Yep.
Okay.
I like collaborations and other artists
Excellent.
and production work, or any kind of combination of those things is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you. So my website is markschirmacher.com. Spelling that is can be awkward, but it's my name, M-A-R-K, and then my last name, S-C-H-I-R-M-A-C-H-E-R. Thank you, Grandpa Johann from Germany. markschirmacher.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter, look at the shows I've got coming up, listen to music, download it, buy it, read about all the fascinating history of the 4 billion bands that I've been a part of.
Excellent.
And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Wonderful. Well, Mark, thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate it.